just learned this tune, but it's getting kind of an odd tuning, and I'm kind of in love with it. My name is Hilarie Burhans. I have lived in Athens for a long time, but before I lived here, I lived many other places. I actually moved to Athens from Ethiopia, for example, when I was a sophomore in high school. So I consider myself to be from Athens. I've been here a long, long time now. I own a restaurant together with my husband, Mark, and I also teach banjo. Mark and I kind of felt like we'd spent our life up to this point trying not to have a restaurant, but it just sort of happened, you know. And then we had a client, a restaurant patron who dragged us over to see the space that we're in now, which was just awesome. When we started it as a hookah bar, it made sense to think about doing things, because that's a Middle Eastern sort of thing, to do things like hummus and baba ganoush and stuff. Then when we stopped doing shisha, which is we needed a name change, and this was after 9/11, and you know, salam means the same as like shalom. It means basically just this feeling of peace, of harmony, and I kind of felt like that we should be putting that kind of energy into the world. And I'd lived in Pakistan for 3 years when I was a kid, and my parents had lived in Saudi Arabia. I liked Middle Eastern food. I liked Pakistani and Indian food. We can do basically whatever I want. So, well, there's lots of ways that a banjo can sound. It can sound really, a bluegrass banjo sounds it has a really bright, sharp sound. And it can sound much warmer and darker. And I like the warmer, darker sound of a banjo. I really like it. But mostly I picked it up because Mark was learning to play fiddle, and I wanted to figure out some way to get to hang out with him, And I now like it for its own sake. So I had this kind of a crush on a guy in high school. Actually, the way we met was we sat in the same seat in different class periods. And I was responding to something he had scribbled on the desk, and then we wrote back and forth to each other. I didn't know who I was writing to, and he didn't either, because it was different class periods, an assigned seat. And finally I said, well, who are you? And he said, well, who are you? And that went on for a while. And so he told me the name of another fellow, and I went up to him and said, is that you I've been writing to? He says, nah, that's Mark Burhans. I said, really? Why did he say it was you? He said, I just was screening, I guess. He didn't know what kind of weirdo was going to come up. And I was thinking, Mark Burhans, huh? Okay, but then we kept writing. And we wrote to each other. We wrote long letters to each other about all kinds of things. We used to stuff them in various little weird places uptown. Like the old Baker Center had a room called the 1804 room, and it had like older furniture. And there were two little things right on either side of the fireplace with little triangular drawers. And we used to put notes in the bottom drawer of those. for whenever the next person was there in town, we would go and check. And he used to make like sort of treasure hunt things where each clue would be, then they go to the next place and on the next place, and then he'd be waiting at the last place. And we were just really, really good friends. And eventually it became more than friends. But it took a while, which was, I always thought was a nice way to start a relationship. Why old time? You know, until I moved to Athens, I'd never lived anywhere in my life more than 3 years. And I felt kind of rootless. And I was definitely very much of a hippie. And sort of back to the lander type, even though we never bought, you know, a little farm out in the country. We didn't really have it together to do that. But something about southeastern Ohio, which is the Appalachian part of Ohio, something about the music which seemed so indigenous to this part of the country was really appealing to me in a way that appealed to my desire to feel rooted in the community. In a family that was really musically involved in many ways. My dad was a jazz pianist. My brother was a drummer. My mom knew the lyrics to every show tune and jazz standard that there was. One of my earliest memories is just sitting. I used to sit. My dad always had a grand piano, and sitting under the piano while my dad was playing, and just having this sound all the way around me, and just like being really in this, you know, sound was really great. And then every Sunday it was a jam session. He'd have musicians, you know, over, and then they'd all play, and my mom would keep them plied with beer and coffee. Old Time Community is my tribe. You know, I don't feel like I have a lot of like good friends here in town. My good friends live in Virginia, or they live in, you know, North Carolina, or they live, and where I get together with my tribe is at festivals.
You're gonna wait to know.